Hi everyone, it's Lindsay here today, and I want to share with you a fully die cut scene. Now these are using the brand new Scene Builders die set from Craftin Desert Divas. Now I have used the Crazy Stitched Frames die set, and I've used the largest rectangle in that set to cut 3 different colored rectangles. I have a light blue, a full sheet of that, a light green, a full sheet of that, and then I just cut the bottom portion of a black piece of cardstock. Now on that black piece, I am going to use this road die from the Scene Builders die set. I'm going to line that up on the very bottom edge of that black cardstock panel, and I want the bottom cutting edge hanging off. I don't want it to cut into the black cardstock on the bottom, so I'm going to hang that off the end. Now I need the road cut out of my green piece because I'm going to inlay that black road into that green piece of cardstock. So I've got the negative space here, and I'm just going to put that over the top of the green cardstock, and then I'll just line up my die with the die cut. Now the great thing about these dies are a lot of the dies in the set have stitching not only on the inside of the die but the outside as well. So whenever I go to inlay this road into my green piece, not only does the black piece have stitching, but the green also has it on the outside of the road. You can see there. So if I wanted to, I could build up an entire scene, have stitching all the way around everything, or you could use this as a stream, you could see here, and you still have that stitching on the outside of it. So I want to go ahead and chop these 2 rectangles in half. So I'm lining up that green and blue rectangle here, and I'm going to put this in my trimmer and chop right above that road. I want it pretty much right where the top of that road is. I've got just a little piece of green cardstock there. I'm just going to snip that off with my scissors because I don't need that. But there you can see, now I have the sky portion of my scene, and I've also got the grass portion and the road as well, and all that stitching along the rectangles line up perfectly. Now if you wanted to make this a little easier on yourself, you could always just use basic rectangles. However, I like that little bit of stitching around the edge. It sort of frames out the scene, and these dies fit it perfectly. So I used the mountain die, and I cut into that blue piece of cardstock. I cut that mountain out, and I also cut the mountains from gray cardstock as well. And then each little mountain has this little cap on the top, and I cut those from white. Now again, the mountains have stitching on them, the outline of the mountain has stitching around it, and also the white snow caps have stitching on them. So everything in this scene is going to have stitching on it, and it matches, which is really great. I am one that really likes the matching of the stitching going on. So I have all these sets and they match perfectly. I want to cut a cloud into the top blue piece here, so I'm going to go ahead and put it on the right hand side. I've got a little bit more space on that side, so I'm just going to go ahead and place that right on top of the blue cardstock, and then I'll run that through my die cut machine again, cut that piece out, and then I will go ahead and cut the cloud from white cardstock as well. Now the cloud again has stitching on the inside of the cloud and the outside, so it's going to match the rest of the pieces. There's also that little bird you've seen in this set. I was going to use it, but then I thought better of myself. I need a place for my sentiment, so I left the other side blank. I need a piece of paper to glue all of these pieces to, but I don't want it too thick. So I use that same large rectangle die from the Crazy Stitched Frames die set, and I cut it out from computer paper. Now I'm just going to use my glossy accents, and I'm going to start gluing everything right over the top of this. So it all has something to glue down to, but this is the exact same size, so I know everything's going to fit well onto this piece of paper. So I started off with my blue piece, and I'm going to start from the top and work my way down. You might be tempted to go and frame out your piece first and then fill it in, but I found that sometimes things don't line up the way you want them to when you do it that way. So if you start from the top and work your way down, you can get everything nice and snug up against each other. And then if you have a little bit left over on the right side, left side, or the bottom, you can just trim that off with your paper trimmer or your scissors, or you can use a sanding block just to sand that off very easily. So I'm going to go ahead and start on the grass now, and I'm just putting glossy accents down. Now you can use any sort of liquid glue you want. You could use multi-medium matte, you could use your tearaway adhesive. I just had this on hand and it's what I'm used to using, so this is what I used. Next, I'm going to go ahead and lay in that road. Again, you might be tempted to put down that other piece of green cardstock on the right hand side, but if I were to do that and then my road didn't fit perfectly in between the two, maybe I moved the right hand side over a little bit too far, then you're going to have white space showing in between. So I like to work my way down and over, and it just all fits together perfectly that way. I'm going to go ahead and finish off this little green piece on the right hand side now, and there you can see I can just fit that nice and snug right up against the road and also up against that blue piece and the mountains on the top, and everything fits together perfectly this way. Now the only thing left to do is add the little snow caps on top of the mountains, and these fit perfectly on top of them. All I need to do is put 3 little dots of glue on top, and then I'll just line up the snow cap with each mountaintop that it belongs to. And I am using my quick sticks tool just so I don't get glue anywhere else. You can see I have it in a few places already, and I just find that this helps me keep my fingers out of it. Now I also put together this little mail truck die from last month's trucks die set, and in this brand new Scene Builders die set there is this slider die. Now it doesn't look like much, it's just a regular line die here, and it's just going to cut out this little arc. Now this fits perfectly in the road. However, you could always use this on its own as well. You could use it for a fish jumping over water or anything, a bird flying in the sky, anything like that, you could use this die for. So again, it can be used with the road like I'm using it here, or you can use it on its own, which is, the possibilities are endless. I need to go ahead and pop up this front panel on some fun foam, so I'm using a very thick fun foam. I will leave the link to that foam over on my blog, but I need to cut out a space where this slider die is, and I don't want to use that die because I don't want to press into my foam at all with my die cutting machine. So I just put that over the top, ran a pencil along the slider die cutout, and then I can just go ahead and cut this out with my scissors, and I'm leaving a nice wide space so whenever I go to put this slider together I don't have any foam obstructing my little track that I'm making here. Once I have that cut out, I'm going to go ahead and start putting together the actual slider. Now for the slider, I'm going to need 2 die cuts, and what I did for that is I went ahead and used the circle die from the trucks die set that is actually the wheel on the side facing truck, and I'm just going to use those to hold my little pop dot in between the truck and the actual paper in the background. So I'm just going to glue down that first circle die, and now I've got this fun foam here, and again it's that very thick fun foam, and I've put double-sided adhesive, all over the back and front of this, and I've put quite a bit more than I would use normally because I want to make sure that my slider is nice and secure. So I'm going to start removing that backing paper, and then I'll just place this right down on top of that die cut scene panel here. And I want to make sure that that cutout that I made with my scissors is lined up over that track that I cut out for my slider die. So I'll just line that up very carefully and put that down. And then I'm going to go ahead and start putting the slider part together. So I need to glue down that foam dot on top of the circle die cut that I placed right in the center. So I'll again use some glossy accents. You don't want to rely on the glue on your pop dots because that's not strong enough to hold this in place. Make sure you use a nice strong adhesive. I'll put that right down on top of that circle die cut that I've already glued in place. And then I can go ahead and place this right over that pop dot. That track is going to fit nicely over the pop dot that I've already glued down. And this is going to be a little bit of a tight fit, so once you put that in there, don't move it. Let it dry down, let the glue dry. I tried to move it and it all fell apart. I had to go back and put everything together, so just give it some time to dry. Then on the back of that little pop dot, I'm going to glue another circle die cut that I made with that tire die from the trucks die set. And this is going to give me a nice smooth surface for that slider to glide up and down against the card base. So it's not going to get hung up on anything. Now this circle die was a little bit too wide on the left hand side, so I just snipped it off with my scissors. And now I can go ahead and I've got a free moving slider. I'm not going to move it yet because it's not dry, but once you see it at the end of the video, you can see it does move very nicely. I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing paper off of the rest of the adhesive, and then I can place this down onto my A2 top folding white card base that I've made myself. Now whenever I put this down, I'm going to let it dry for a little bit before I try to move my slider. But you do want to make sure that you move your slider before you give it to the recipient. It's going to be a little tight when you first start moving it. However, once it gets going, it moves really well. So just give it a few slides on your own, and then once it gets to your recipient, it'll be really free flowing. I wanted to go ahead and put a sentiment right in the top left hand corner, so I used the thank you sentiment and I stamped that down in some black dye ink. And that is from the Simply Said sentiment set from Craftin Desert Divas. But there you can see I have a fully inlaid die cut scene with a nice little slider element, and here you can see I'm moving it for the first few times. At first it's a little tight and hard to get going, but once you get it moving, it really works nicely. You can see here all it takes is a few times and then it starts to glide on its own. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will leave you with a few finished pictures. For more information and the supply list, you can head to my blog, or you can head to the Craftin Desert Divas blog as well. I will leave both links in the description box below. Thank you guys for watching. Happy crafting!